Hello, good evening, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Trey Olds Radio Show. This is Trey Olds. Thank you for joining us this evening. Today my special guest is Mr. Stephen O. Sellers. Thank you and join us in a minute. Well, my first question to you is, how did you get started in radio? How did your career begin?
Well, I was taking guitar lessons in my small hometown of Kennedy, Texas, from a guy who was a very good guitar player and a country and western musician. His name was Bobby Morgan. And on my little hometown radio station, Bobby Morgan had a Saturday afternoon live country radio show. This was in 1964, and he would go in on Saturdays, and he had a 30-minute segment. The whole band would crowd into the studio and play live, and they had a sponsor, which was a beer company, you know, and so they'd play a song and take a break for a beer commercial. And I got to be a pretty good guitar student, so Bobby would take me to the radio station on Saturdays and ask me to play on the radio show. I did that for about a year, and in the summer of 1965, because I was hanging around the radio station so much, they asked me to become the weekend announcer. And so all through high school, I worked every Saturday and Sunday at my small hometown radio station.
Wow. Yeah, I've been doing my show for 6 years, since 2013, and I love radio because there's so many possibilities you can do with radio.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. Yes, sir. I'm glad that you've had a nice long tenure. I mean, that sounds terrific.
Yeah. My next question to you is, what is the most difficult part or the most challenging part for you being in radio?
Well, I think probably... Is that a trick question? I think probably... there's always that struggle between the creativity and the fact that it is a business.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a sales department. There's a sales manager. They all want commercials. They all want ratings. And so there's a real relationship there that sometimes isn't a lot of fun. But it usually works out. We're in a interesting time, I think, in broadcasting where there's fewer local broadcasters, that own radio stations. Most stations now are owned by huge corporations that aren't broadcasting corporations. They're investors. And so, I've seen that over the years, and there's things that you have to, you change. You have to go with the flow if you want to stay in business, is one way I would put it, I guess. And so I've been fortunate, to have done that. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I would say that that relationship between creativity and the need to make a profit as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to adapt because the times change. They change every day.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Especially with technology now, because now people, have their own radio show or radio station just on the internet, web-based.
iHeart, the huge iHeart company, for a while was trying to pattern all their stations after Spotify, where you can hear any song you want to, and that didn't really work out. But to your point, yeah, you're exactly right. When I started in radio, we played records on the radio, and an artist would make a record. The record company representative would bring it to the radio station. We would play the record. People would hear the record and want to buy the record and go to the record store. The circle is complete there, and then, or the transaction is complete. Nowadays, there's a lot of different ways to get that music, and a lot of different ways you don't have to pay for the music that you want to hear. So things have not only changed for radio stations, but record companies. And like you said, you can start your own radio station online with no FCC restrictions. So there's a lot more competition would be, I guess, the bottom line, to say.
Yeah. Well, now let's talk about now with radio. Do you have your own radio show now, or what do you do with radio now?
I am the morning man on a radio station called KONO, 86 AM KONO. It's one of the legendary stations in San Antonio, Texas. We play music from the 60s and 70s, and I love it. And one of the reasons I love it is because this was the first really big station I worked for right out of high school. After I finished that job down in my hometown of Kennedy, Texas, I graduated from high school, so I didn't have the job anymore because I moved to San Antonio, and one of my favorite stations was Kono, so I enrolled in college, and after about a year or so of going to school, I got my job at Kono, and so I'm back there again, 50 years later, and so I'm really thrilled. In addition, the number one station in San Antonio is our FM, Kono FM, Kono 1011 FM, and I'm what they call the swing shift person on that station. In other words, the midday guy wants to take a few days off, I work for him. Somebody wants off on the weekend, I work for them. So I really have two jobs: the morning show and the swing shift on the FM. Yeah.
And that has to be fun because, as you said, you play 60s music, the old music, I love that kind of music, and I wish more of that music would come back these days,
Well, it's fun. It's real fun for me. Right now on 86 KONO, I'm playing a lot of the songs I played when I was on Kono right out of high school. So, it's a blessing, and I've been doing it now 2.5 years. It's really, really been fun. I hope the company will let the station keep going. We have tons of competition, of course, like everything else, and radio stations don't seem to stick around too long, but I'm really hoping it will stick around a little while longer. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. And besides radio, you do your own music too, right? You're a songwriter and a guitarist too. Can you explain?
Yes, sir.
How'd you get into that?
Well, I was playing the guitar as a teenager long before I was on the radio, and I was in the high school band. Although those two roads didn't converge, my love of rock and roll and playing guitar in the high school band, but I was involved in music, so I was happy. I've always been in bands, and a few years ago, I wrote some children's songs for my own kids. And my own kids are very musical. My daughter Laura plays the flute, and my son Stephen is a jazz guitarist up in Dallas, Texas, and he plays like I said, jazz guitar, but he also plays keyboards and he composes. And so, just to tell you a little bit about the kids music that I did, my children, always urged me to make a CD, and so I did. And my daughter, who is an artist, did the cover work, the cover art, and then my son helped produce it and played on some of the cuts. And so it was a real family thing. And so Stephen, my son Stephen, that's the jazz guitarist. And so anyway, it's all kind of been intertwined from the beginning, and this past year, our radio station, Kono FM, has a program where we go to schools and we we record the kids. These are kids in the lower grades, like kindergarten to third grade. We record them saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and we salute their school on the radio saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we read to them. And this year they added me playing my music, my kids' songs for the classes. So I do that, and then I also have some partners here in San Antonio. We love playing blues, and so I play some blues gigs too. Sometimes my son and I get to play gigs together, which is fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a pretty active music life as well as radio life.
Well, it's good to keep busy, as long as you enjoy it. That's the main thing, and it's very rewarding in the end.
Well, I'm always doing one or the other. I mean, if one goes away, radio can be a tough business, as you know. If that goes away, I have my music, and we'll have more time to travel and meet other musicians and stuff, or do some work with my son. And so, yeah, I've always got the music or the radio going one way or another. In addition, I do voiceover work for stations, commercials and stuff like that. And so I'm always, I've got my hand in it one way or another. all of the time. It seems like.
Yeah, that's how I am. Besides radio, I'm a theater actor and a voice actor, so I have that.
Oh, nice.
To fall back on if radio stops,
Yeah. Oh, that's very good. That's interesting. That's very good.
Yeah. My last question to you is, what is your advice to people who want to be in radio and for people who want to become a songwriter? What is your advice to them?
Oh, okay. Well, for radio people, I would say be flexible. Our business is changing, but I have a theory that the people who can stay around the longest are the people who really start on the ground level and are kind of working part-time. Because, if you're the kind of person that they'll say, like they say to me, can you do a Sunday shift? Can you do a Saturday shift? Maybe I had planned on going out to dinner or something, but I love to say yes. So I would say be flexible. Try to say yes every chance you get, and try to go with the flow with the changes that are happening in our industry. As far as songwriters, man, I don't know that I'm qualified to tell anything. I would say write the way you talk, write the way that you want to tell a story. Maybe it'll end up being a poem, and maybe it'll end up being a song. But if you are a musician already, here's what I would say. If you play the guitar or the ukulele, I love to play the ukulele also, I would say start writing. Write anything. Doesn't matter who hears it. Doesn't matter if nobody ever hears it. Doesn't matter if it's great. Doesn't matter if it wins a songwriting contest. Just do it. And one of the most rewarding things for me is these kids' songs. As funny as it sounds, I'm not like a kid's music artist or anything like that on YouTube or any of that kind of stuff. I don't have children's videos and stuff. But when I go to these schools and I play the songs and I see the kids that the kids like them, that's very rewarding. And you'll know immediately, especially if you play for children's audiences, you find out pretty quick, if they're interested. So I would say, if you're playing the ukulele or the guitar or the piano or something, start writing. Try something. If you play if you don't sing, if you play maybe a saxophone or something, write some little instrumental pieces. And here's what I tell the kids about writing a story, about writing a poem, about writing a song. The magic in that whole thing is that did not exist in the whole universe until you gave birth to it. You gave birth to that in your own field. Maybe you're asked collaborator to write on a 30-second